So, come take a look. Give me the hook or the ovation. It's my world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say, hey world, I am what I am. I am what I am. I don't want praise, I don't want pity. I bang my own drum. Some think it's noise, I think it's pretty. And so what if I love each feather and each spangle? Why not try to see things from a different angle? Your life is a sham till you can shout out loud, I am what I am. I am what I am, and what I am needs no excuses. I deal my own deck. Sometimes the A's, sometimes the deuces. There's one life and there's no return and no deposit. One life, so it's time to open up your closet. Life's not worth a damn till you can say, hey world, I am what I am.
Oh my goodness, what a great way to start this exciting evening here at MTC. Hi everybody, welcome to MTC tonight and a very, very special night. My name is Kevin Connors and I am the Executive Artistic Director here at MTC and the co-founder of this organization 33 years ago. We decided that this year, in order to celebrate the 50th anniversary, by the way, of the first Pride Month, that we needed to do something very, very special here at MTC. And so we are connecting theater and the LGBT movement. What was going on in the theater at the same time the LGBT movement was progressing. And so you're going to see great performances like that one from Andrew Foote throughout the evening that are going to sort of reflect the theatrical climate of the time. At the same time, social change is happening. Secondly, this is a fundraiser. So we have partnered with the New Haven Pride Center. So if you like what you see here and you really want to jump in and support professional theater right here in Fairfield County, as well as supporting the LGBT community during Pride Month, please go on our website and donate. It's really easy. Periodically, you're going to see a crawl across the bottom of the screen. There it is. There are two ways to give. You can give either by texting, give to the number on your screen below, or you can go to our website and right there, again, one click through and you will be able to donate. Anything you can give is greatly, greatly appreciated. Our goal tonight is $7,000, and even with pre-show donations, we are already up to $2,500. So we are a third of the way there. Please, please help us reach this great goal tonight. So we're going to start at the beginning. We have decided to do a chronological history beginning with Stonewall in 1969, taking us right through today. So without any further ado, let's remind ourselves how the LGBT movement really kicked off with Stonewall in 1969. Here we go.
The year was 1969, and much like today, our country was divided over many issues. Even in the world of theater, we were not spared division and controversy. On Broadway, there was the Pulitzer Prize winning 1776, which took us back in history to our founding fathers' signing of the Declaration of Independence. But only a block away, there was a dawning of a new era, as the rock musical Hair began its run at the Biltmore Theater. It was nominated for Best Musical in 1969 after being shut out in 1968 by some of Broadway's producing establishment. The Tony Award for Best Play that year went to The Great White Hope. James Earl Jones was awarded Best Actor in a Play for his portrayal of a black boxer fighting prejudice and discrimination, eerily reflecting some of the very same issues we experience today. There was also prejudice and discrimination happening further downtown, where police were raiding a small tavern in New York City's Greenwich Village, the Stonewall Inn. History would remember that night as the Stonewall Uprising. Dick Leish, who was one of America's first gay journalists, describes what happened at the Stonewall that evening. The Stonewall was more than a dance bar, more than just a gay gathering place. It catered largely to a group of people who are not welcome in or cannot afford other places of homosexual social gathering. The Drags and the Queens, two groups which would find a chilly reception or a barred door at most of the other gay bars and clubs, formed the regulars at the Stonewall. To a large extent, the club was for them. Another group was even more dependent on the Stonewall, the very young homosexuals and those without other homes. You've got to be 18 to buy a drink in a bar, and gay life revolved around bars. Where do you go if you are 17 or 16 and gay? The legitimate bars won't let you in the place, and gay restaurants and the streets aren't very sociable. Then, too, there are hundreds of young homosexuals in New York who have no home. Most of them are between 16 and 25 and came here from other places without jobs, money, or contacts. Many of them are running away from unhappy homes. One boy told us, "My father called me cocksucker so many times I thought it was my name." Another said his parents fought so much over which of them made him a homosexual that he left so they could learn to live together. Some got thrown out of school or the service for being gay and couldn't face going home. Some were even thrown out of their own homes with only the clothes on their backs by ignorant and tolerant parents who rather see their kids dead than be a homosexual. Jobless and without skills, without decent clothes to wear to a job interview, they lived in the streets panhandling or shoplifting for the price of admission to the Stonewall. Well, that was the one advantage. You see, it was only $3 to get into the Stonewall, and one could stay inside out of the winter's cold or the summer heat all night long. Not only was the Stonewall better climatically, but it also saved the kids from spending the night in a doorway or from getting arrested as vagrants. $3 isn't too hard to get, and nobody hustled drinks in the Stonewall. Once the admission price was paid, one could drink or not as he chose. The Stonewall became home to these kids. When it was raided, they fought for it. That and the fact that they had nothing to lose other than the most tolerant and broad minded gay place in town. It explains why the Stonewall riots were begun, led and spearheaded by Queens.
I've got
What a great way to start our history here. So we're going to take you in this next segment from the beginning of Stonewall all the way up through about 1980, and you're going to see how theater was reflecting exactly what was going on as after the Stonewall riots, things began to open up a lot. But during the pre-Stonewall theatrical history, most gay characters in theater were portrayed as either fops or outcasts, frequently designed to be pitied or damaged, or many times self-loathing. One of the most powerful depictions of a lesbian character, for example, came in Lillian Hellman's 1934 play, The Children's Hour, which takes place in a girls' boarding school run by two women. Here's Broadway actress Jodie Stevens in Martha's confession speech, delivered after being outed by a disgruntled student. Ladies and gentlemen, The Children's Hour.
Karen, you need to listen to me. I've got to tell you, I can't keep it to myself any longer. I've got to tell you that I am guilty. I've been telling myself that since the night we heard the child say it. I would lie in bed and night after night praying that it wasn't true. But I know about it now. It's there. I don't know how and I don't know why. But I do love you. I do love you. And I guess I resented your marriage, maybe because I wanted you. Maybe because I wanted you all of these years and I really couldn't call it by name, but maybe it has been there all of this time. Maybe it's been there ever since I first knew you. I never knew before, but maybe it's that. It's funny, it's all mixed up. There's something inside of you and you don't know to do anything about it because you don't even know it's there. And then suddenly a little girl gets bored and tells a lie, and that night you see it for the first time and you say to yourself, did she see it? Did she sense it? She found the lie with an ounce of truth. I guess they always do, huh? I ruined your life. And I ruined my own. I swear I didn't know it. I swear I didn't mean it. Oh, I feel so goddamn sick and dirty. I can't stand it anymore. Oh, I don't want tomorrow. It's a bad word.
The early fight for LGBTQ rights, but no one more important than Harvey Milk. He was the first openly gay official in the history of California, elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 1977. On November 27, 1978, and only 11 months into office, Milk and Mayor George Moscone were assassinated by Dan White, another city supervisor. Despite his short career in politics, Milk became an icon in San Francisco and in the gay community at large. He was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009, and his legacy has stood the test of time. In 2018, the musical A Letter to Harvey Milk premiered at the Acorn Theater on Theater Row. Although the show is not about Harvey, his presence plays the central character in this show about a retired kosher butcher, Harry Weinberg, and his very out lesbian writing teacher, Barbara. In his first writing assignment, he composes a moving letter to Milk, a former customer and friend. Singing the title song from the show as the character of Barbara is Broadway veteran of Les Mis, Passion, and Meet Me in St. Louis, Juliet Lambert Pratt.
If someone unlike them shares their need to mourn a cherished friend and dares to say out loud above a hostile crowd, our fallen hero's dream will never end. You don't need a PhD to be a writer or law degree to plead for equal rights. The most prestigious schools have graduated fools who never break the rules or scale the heights. All you needed was your own God-given talent. The roughest cloth is sometimes lined with silk. What honor you have given to this man for whom you've written a letter to Harvey Milk. I read this letter when I was in danger of thinking love would never come again. A letter written by a total stranger whom I have learned to love so much since then. And so if people like you and people like me find each other as did you and I, they'll learn that people like me are people like you, all searching for a way to say goodbye. Reach out with me and touch them and let them know we're there in words as tough as nails and soft as silk. So let them come together in the reading of your prayer, a letter, your own letter to Harvey
Set on the bare stage of a Broadway theater, a chorus line is centered around 17 Broadway dancers auditioning for spots in a Broadway chorus. The show provides a glimpse into personal journeys of the performers and the choreographer as they describe the events that have shaped their lives and their decisions to become dancers. A chorus line opened at the Shubert Theater on Broadway July 25, 1975, and received 12 Tony Award nominations and won 9, in addition to the 1976 Pulitzer Prize for Drama. The show was groundbreaking in so many ways, not the least of which is several dancers' insights into their coming out. It was one of the first musicals to realistically include gay characters, recounting their private struggles for acceptance and success, both personally and professionally. Paul's monologue in particular is one of the most poignant and critical points of the production. Here is MTC veteran Chris Manuel as Paul in a chorus line.
No. Okay. From seeing all those movie musicals, I used to dance around in the street, and I'd get caught all the time. God, it was embarrassing. I was always being Sid Charisse. Always. Which I don't really understand because I always wanted to be an actor. I mean, I really wanted to perform. Once my cousin said to me, "You'll never be an actor." And I knew she was telling me this because I was such a sissy. I mean, I was terribly effeminate. I always knew I was gay, but that didn't bother me. What bothered me was that I didn't know how to be a boy. One day, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "You're 14 years old and you're a faggot. What are you gonna do with your life?" By that time, I was in Cardinal Hayes High School. There were 3,000 boys there. I had no protection anymore. No homeroom where I could be charming and funny with the tough guys so they fight my battles for me, like when I went to small schools. I liked school, but my grades got so bad. Even if I knew the answers to questions, I wouldn't raise my hand because I think that they would laugh at me. They'd even whistle at me in the halls. It was awful. Just awful. Finally, I went down to the principal's office and said, "I'm a homosexual." Well, it was a Catholic high school, and at the age of 15, you just didn't say that. He said, "Would you like to see a psychologist?" And I did. And he said, "I think you are very well adjusted for your age, and I think you should quit school." So I did. But I really didn't want to. I couldn't take it anymore. See, When I quit school, what I was doing was trying to find out who I was and how to be a man. There are plenty of people in this world who don't know how to be men. And since then, I found out that I'm one. I was looking for the wrong thing. I was trying to learn how to be butch. Anyway, I started hanging around 72nd Street and meeting all these really strange people, just trying to make friends that were like me so that I'd understand what it was that I was. Somebody told me that they were looking for male dancers for the Jewel Box Review, the drag show. So I go down to audition. Now, from all those years of pretending I was Sid Charisse, I had this fabulous extension. I mean, I could turn anything my first audition. And they said to me, you're too short to be a boy. Would you like to be a pony? And I said, what's that? And they said, a girl. What do I have to do? Show us your legs. But I have hair on my legs. That's okay. Come on upstairs. So I went. And they hiked up my dungarees and they put on a pair of nylon stockings and high heels. It was freaky. It was incredible. And then they brought me back downstairs and they said, oh, you have wonderful legs. I said, really? Terrific. It's so strange thinking about all this. It was a whole lifetime ago. I was just past 16. Anyway, then there was this thing of me trying to hide it from my parents. That was something. Because I could buy all this stuff, like shoes to rehearse in, earrings, makeup. And I'd hide it all, and my mother would find it. I told her there was this girl in the show, and she didn't want her to know her mother to know what she was doing, and I was holding this stuff for her. And she believed me. Well, I was finally in show business. The asshole of show business. But it was a job. Nothing to brag about. I had friends. But after a while, it was so demeaning. Nobody at the Jewel Box had any dignity, and most of them were ashamed of themselves and considered themselves freaks. I think it was a lack of dignity that got to me, so I left. I muddled around for a while. I worked as an office boy, waiter. But without an education, you can't get a good job. So when the Jewel Box called and asked if I'd go back, I went. We were at the Apollo Theater on 125th Street doing 4 shows a day with a movie. It was really tacky. The show was going to go to Chicago, and my parents wanted to say goodbye. They were going to bring my luggage to the theater after the show. Well, we were doing this Oriental number, and I looked like Anime Wong. I had these 2 great big chrysanthemums on either side of my head, and this huge headdress with gold balls hanging all over it. And I'm going on for the finale and going down the stairs, and who should I see standing by the stage door? My parents. They got there too early. I freaked. I didn't know what to do. I thought to myself, I know I'll walk quickly past them like all the others and they'll never recognize me. So I took a deep breath and started down the stairs. And as soon as I passed my mother, I heard her say, "Oh my God." Well, I died. But what could I do? I had to go on for the finale, so I kept going. And after the show, I went back up to the dressing room. And when I finished dressing and taking my makeup off, I went back downstairs. And there they were, standing in the middle of these and all they said to me was, "Please write." make sure you eat and take care of yourself. And right before my parents left, my father turned to the producer and said, take care of my son. And that was the first time that he ever called me that. And
It is so great to see all these great actors and to go back in that period of time. Even now, you can see the theatrical door opening little by little by little in just those 10 years. So please, once again, this is a fundraiser, so please go online as we continue to go through this and make your donation, whatever it is. In the crawl on the bottom, you're going to see you can text to give, or you can go to our website and do the traditional giving. Everything is one click through, so it's really, really, really easy. So we are going to move forward now into the 1980s and the 1990s, and to kick it off is another great song from La Cage aux Folles and another fabulous Broadway actor, Dennis Holland. Take it away, Dennis.
How often is someone concerned with the tiniest thread of your life? Concerned with whatever you feel and whatever you touch. Look over there. Look over there. Somebody cares that How often does somebody sense that you need them without being told? When you have a hurt in your heart you're too proud to disclose. Look over there. Look over there. Somebody always knows when your world spins too fast and your bubble has burst. Someone puts himself last so that you can come first. So count all the loves who will love you from now till the end of your life. And when you have added the ones who have loved you before, look over there. Look over there. Somebody loves you more.
What an amazing show that was. And one thing that happened in the 80s and 90s was that Broadway musicals started representing gay characters as just real people, dealing with family issues, dealing with relationship issues, raising children. The door kept opening more and more and more. But of course, another thing that happened in the 1980s that impacted our community so much was the AIDS crisis. One of the positive things to come out of the AIDS crisis, though, is that it really pulled the LGBT community together like never before to unite against a common enemy. And many theatrical shows actually met that challenge head on. So there were two things happening at the same time. For example, we're going to salute one of those iconic productions and its terrific writer, Larry Kramer, in just a moment. And you're going to see a little bit of theater verite with that particular performance going on. But first, we're going to talk about a story that really tells the story of real life and real family issues in a non-traditional kind of family. Falsettos was one of those shows. So if you don't know falsettos, let me give you the sort of quick and dirty on that. Marvin divorces Trina. He comes out. He meets a young lover named Whizzer, and they all try their best to work together to parent Marvin and Trina's young son, Jason, through a bar mitzvah. Sadly, just when things seem to be like they're evening out, Whizzer is stricken with AIDS. And the story after that becomes very, very real. So to give us several songs from that great, great production, we have Kirsty Carnahan as Trina, Elissa DeMaria as Whizzer's doctor desperately seeking information and some kind of a treatment for this new virus that nobody knew anything about at that time. And finally, Greg Roderick and Logan Hart as Marvin and Whizzer in the show's final song. Ladies and gentlemen, Falsettos.
I was sure growing up I would live the life my mother assumed I'd live. Very Jewish, very middle class, and very straight. Where healthy men stayed healthy men, and marriages were long and great. I smile, I don't complain. I'm trying to keep sane as the rules keep changing. Families aren't what they were. Thank God there's a husband and a child whom I adore. But then there's more, so many more. There's always more. Life is never what you planned. Life is moments you can't understand. And that is life. I'm playing, I don't astound. I hold to the ground as the ground keeps shifting, keeping my balance square. Trying not to care about this man, my husband loves. But that's my life. He shared my life. Yes, that's my life. Life is never what you planned. Life is moments you don't understand. And that is life. Holding to the ground as the ground keeps shifting. Trying to keep sane as the rules keep changing. Keeping up my head as my heart falls out of sight. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright.
People might think I'm very dykeish, I make a big stink when I must, but goddamn, I'm just professional, never too nonchalant. If I'm a bitch, well, I am what I am. Just call me Doc, don't call me lady. I don't like to talk when I'm losing the game. Bachelors arrive sick and frightened. They leave weeks later unenlightened. We see a trend, but the trend has no name. Something bad is happening. Something very bad is happening. Something stinks. Something immoral. Something so bad that words have lost their meaning. Rumors fly and tales abound. Stories echo underground. Something bad is spreading. something stinks, something immoral, something so bad that words have lost their meaning. Rumors fly and tales abound, stories echo underground. Something bad is spreading, spreading, spreading around. Look, a virus has been found. Stories echo underground. Something bad is spreading, spreading around.
What would I do if I had not met you? Who would I blame my life on? Once I was told that all men get what they deserve. Who the hell then threw this curve? There are no answers, but what would I be if you had not been my friend? You're the only one out of 1,000 others, only one my child would allow. When I'm having fun, you're the one I want to talk to. Where have you been? Where are you now? Who would I be if I had not loved you? How would I know what love is? God only knows. Too soon I'll remember your faults. Meanwhile, though it's tears and schmaltz, there are no answers. But what would I do if you had not been my friend?
All your life you wanted men, and when you got it up to have them, who thought it could end your life?
I left my kid and left my wife to be with you, to be insulted by such handsome men.
Do you regret?
I'd do it again. I'd like to believe that I'd do it again and again and again. What more can I say? How am I to face tomorrow after being screwed out of today? Tell me what's in store. Yes, I'd beg or steal or borrow if I could hold you for 1 hour more. 1 hour more. 1 hour more. 1 hour more. What would I do if I had not seen you? Who would I feast my eyes on? Once I was told that good men get better with age. We're just gonna skip that stage. There are no answers, but what would I do if you had not been my friend? No simple answers, but what would I do if you had not been my friend? My friend, my friend.
Just a few weeks ago, on May 27th, we lost another hero of the LGBT community. Larry Kramer was an American playwright, author, film producer, public health advocate, and LGBT rights activist. He received the 1969 Academy Award nomination for the screenplay of the film Women in Love. But that was only the beginning, as he went on to win 2 Obie Awards and become a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. But Larry was just getting started. In 1981, he co-founded the Gay Men's Health Crisis, which has become the world's largest private organization assisting people living with AIDS. And his political activism continued with the founding of the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, ACT UP, in 1987. In addition to his activism, he is perhaps best remembered for his masterpiece, The Normal Heart, first produced at the Public Theater in 1985. The play is considered a literary landmark, as it contended with the AIDS crisis when few would speak of the disease, and it remains the longest-running play ever staged at the Public Theater. It has been produced over 600 times in the US, Europe, Israel, and South Africa, and in 2014 became an HBO film. Here are 2 powerful moments from The Normal Heart. First, Broadway actress Raissa Cantona Bennett plays Emma, a frustrated researcher and physician frantically fighting for AIDS funding. She is followed by MTC veterans Jeff Gerner as Ned, modeled after Larry himself, and his lover Felix, played by Chris Manuel, who are desperately trying to manage Felix's deteriorating health due to the AIDS virus.
How does it always happen that all the idiots are always on your team? You guys have all the money, call the shots, shut everybody out, and then operate behind closed doors. I am taking care of more victims of this epidemic than anyone in the world. We have more accumulated test results, more data, more frozen blood samples, more experience. How can you not fund my research or invite me to participate in yours? A promising virus has already been discovered in France. Why are we being told not to cooperate with the French? Why are you refusing to cooperate with the French? Just so you can steal a Nobel Prize? Your National Institutes of Health received my first request for research money 2 years ago. It took you 1 year just to print up application forms. It's taken you 2.5 years from my first reported case just to show up here to take a look. The paltry amount of money you are making us beg for, from the $4 billion you are given each and every year, won't come to anyone until only God knows when. Anyway, you add all this up. It is an unconscionable delay and has never existed in any other health emergency during this entire century, while something is being passed around that causes death. We are enduring an epidemic of death. Women have been discovered to have it in Africa, where it is clearly being transmitted heterosexually. It is only a question of time. We could all be dead before you do anything. You want my patients? Take them. Take them. Just do something for them. You're fucking right. I'm imprecise and unfocused. And you are all idiots.
Why are you sitting on the floor?
I fell down trying to get from there to here.
Well, let's put you to bed.
Don't touch me! I am so ugly! I cannot stand it when you look at my body.
You go to chemo today?
Yes. I threw it all up. You don't have to let me stay here with you. God, this is horrible for you.
No fallout yet? Phil looks cute shaved. You know what? I'm hungry. How about you? You need a little something? Come on, you gotta eat, please. Soup, something light. I bought dinner.
Emma says there won't be a vaccine for another century. Emma says it's still years until a vaccine, which won't do me any good. Emma says the incubation period might be 3, 10, 20 years.
Emma says you've got to eat.
I looked at all my date books, and no one else I slept with is sick that I know of. Maybe it was you. Maybe you've been a carrier for 20 years, or maybe you only have 3 years left to go.
Felix, we don't need to do this again to each other.
I never thought you would die from having sex.
Did Emma also tell you that research at the NIH has finally started? That something is now possible? We have to hope.
Oh, do we?
Yes, we do.
And how am I supposed to do that? You Jewish boys who think you can make everything right. That the world can always be a better place. Did I tell you the Times is running an editorial this Sunday titled "The Slow Response"? And you're right. I had nothing to do with it.
Why are you doing this? Why are you eating that shit? Twinkies and chips? You know how important it is for you to watch your nutrition. You're supposed to eat right.
Yeah. I have a life expectancy of 10 more minutes. I'm going to eat what I want. Ned, it's going to get messier any day, and I don't want to make you see it.
Nobody makes me do anything. You should know that better than anybody else by now. What are you going to do? You're going to sit on the floor for the rest of your life? We have a bed in the other room. You could go start those relaxation tapes we bought you 3 months ago. You haven't even used them yet. You hear me?
Yes, I hear you. That guy David who sold you the pig on Bleecker Street finally died. He took forever. They said he looked like someone out of Auschwitz. Do you hear me?
No. Now, are you ready to get up and eat something?
No! I've had over 40 treatments! No! I've had 4 different types of chemo. No! I've had interferon a couple of times. I've had 2 different experimentals. Emma spent more time on me than anyone else. God, none of it has done a thing. I've had to go into the hospital 4 times, and please, God, don't make me go back to the hospital until I die. My illness has cost it's cost the New York Times insurance company over $300,000. 85% of us are dead after 2 years. Alexander, it gets higher after 3. Emma has lost so many patients, they call her Dr. Death. You cannot force the goddamn sun to come out!
You know what, Felix? I am so sick of statistics and numbers and body counts and how many's and Emma. But every day, Felix, there's more numbers and more fighting. And I am so sick of fighting and of bragging about fighting. I'm so sick of everyone's stupidity and blindness and intransigence and guilt trips. You don't want to eat the food, don't eat the food. Take your poison. I don't care. You want to sit on the floor for the rest of your life? Fine. Stay there. I don't care. Fish. Fish is good for you. We wouldn't want any of that. No green lettuce. No broccoli. No bread with 7 grains. No milk. Why would anybody want any milk? You might get some calcium in your bones. You want to die, Felix? Fine. Die. Sure. No. Please don't leave me, Felix.
The power in those scenes from the normal heart are the perfect example of Larry Kramer's passion for AIDS and the cure. He was not messing around, and he certainly got attention, and we owe him so much for what he was able to bring to this movement and to help find a cure and find a treatment for AIDS. So, couple of quick things here, a little update on the fundraising. We are a little over $4,000 right now on our goal of $7,000. So if you have given, thank you so very much. And if you have not given yet, please go to one of the sites that's going along on the bottom of our screen right now and give either with our text to give platform or with our regular donation platform. It's very, very easy. But it's one way to not only support the New Haven Pride Center, but also MTC, but also to help thank these fabulous Broadway actors who have given their time to help support the cause here, right here in Fairfield County. And speaking of Fairfield County, we have one of our special guests coming up right now. I could not be more honored to bring this gentleman on. Dr. Gary Blick is an internationally renowned HIV/AIDS clinician, clinical researcher, lecturer, and humanitarian. His career has spanned 30 years, so he was in on the very, very beginning of the AIDS crisis. He's the Chief Medical Officer of Healthcare Advocates International, the co-founder of HIV Advocates, and the founder of the Zimbabwe AIDS Project, where he built a state-of-the-art HIV and general medical clinic to serve over 8,600 people in Zimbabwe. The credits that this man has go on and on and on. And we are so fortunate to have him live right here in Fairfield County. So without any further ado, let's have a quick chat with him. So Gary, come on and let's hear about stuff. How are you?
Good evening, Kevin. Thank you. How you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. First of all, thank you so much for spending a little time with us tonight. You know, it's very interesting, but you and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, that for some reason, so many people in this world think that the AIDS crisis is sort of like a thing of the past, like the plague or something.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
I think we've gotten very complacent now because we've done a great job, you know, through the last 39 years of getting this crisis under control. So, you know, the problem now is our youth pretty much think, well, what's the big deal of getting HIV? It's one pill once a day. I mean, you may not be aware that that pill costs $25,000 to $30,000 a year, and you need to have insurance coverage for things like that. But people just get very complacent. It's also been 39 years, Kevin, since the first cases of gay men coming down with pneumocystis pneumonia and Kaposi sarcoma were reported. Next year's the 40th anniversary.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
It's just shocking, isn't it? And let's be clear, there's no cure for AIDS. Right.
Well, unlike the president said, there is no HIV vaccine. Yes. No, there is not. We've done a very good job of controlling things now, Kevin. People can live a normal lifespan, you know, with the medications that we do have right now. And we actually, you know, have HIV prevention called PrEP, where we can actually prevent people from getting HIV by taking one pill once a day. So we've come a long way with the crisis, but we're still in this crisis, and there are still, you know, millions and millions and millions of people that are living with this, and millions of people are getting infected every year throughout the world.
Wow, it's astonishing. It's still astonishing. I'm curious, I'm assuming that you wanted to be a doctor of some kind from sort of the very beginning, but what made you feel the calling to dive in such an early period of this disease and basically dedicate your life's work to that?
Actually, Kevin, I actually went to medical school to be a plastic surgeon for reconstructive surgery. And so I started medical school in 1979. And then we saw the first cases of people with HIV coming in to the hospital wards where I was doing my medical school training at the University of Miami. So down there, obviously, we were having problems with gay men coming in, getting sick from this unknown disease at the time, but also Haitians, since we were on the Caribbean at that point.
Right.
And if you remember, there's still so much stigma and discrimination surrounding HIV, but back then we were blamed for the crisis. You know, I came out of the closet in '79 myself, but remember, at the beginning of this crisis, it wasn't called AIDS, it was called GRIDS, gay-related immunodeficiency syndrome.
Right.
We were stigmatized and discriminated against from day one when this crisis happened. And stigma and discrimination are still present, especially in our Latinx communities, our African American communities, but throughout the world, stigma and discrimination with HIV still really exists.
Wow. That's shocking as well. I would hope that we would have evolved past that now, but
it's not that much different it's not that much different than the pandemic going around now, Kevin.
Right.
It's not that much different at all. You know, I see, you know, it being denied by the president of the United States. Well, Ronald Reagan didn't talk about HIV for the first 7 of his 8 years in his administration. Stigma and discrimination. People are being stigmatized and discriminated against if they're Chinese, for being blamed for this epidemic because that's where the president comes from. But we shouldn't be stigmatizing, but we still do, and it does exist. This crisis right now is really not that much different than the early days of HIV in certain ways, of course. I mean, with HIV, you really were going to die from this no matter what if we didn't get treatment. For the most part, everybody was going to die. With this, it's, you know, somewhere between 1% to 4%. But right now, we didn't have any drugs, right? We came out with the first drug, which was very, very similar to when AZT came out in 1987, this drug called remdesivir. It works a little bit. It can harm some people. AZT was very harmful to people because we overdosed it, but it's a building block to work on. So we have many therapies that are in research right now that can be added to remdesivir, that we may have like a 3-drug cocktail like we do for HIV. Every pill is a 3-drug cocktail, essentially. We may have a 3-drug cocktail very soon for this COVID-19 pandemic. And Kevin, that is thanks to our LGBT community and our activism back in the 80s, okay? Because if it wasn't for Larry Kramer and people like Peter Staley and ACT UP New York and ACT UP throughout the world, they never would have changed the Drug Enforcement Agency, the National Institute of Health, to get drugs out there earlier than when needed. I was in my office back in the late 80s and early 90s. I was having people come in donating their plasma. Remember, passive immunotherapy, just like for COVID-19, hoping that the healthiest people had plasma, had antibodies to help those that were sick. We started the same way as COVID-19 is starting back then, but right now, we just didn't have things available, so we did everything possible. I was stigmatized as a physician, not only as a gay man, but as a physician, because I was taking care of people with HIV. I was actually had my privileges at my hospital suspended for about a year and fought it and won, thank goodness for that. But I was stigmatized, you know, taking care of people with HIV because the hospital didn't want people like that, admitted into their hospital beds. I remember the days when the electrician came into a hospital room, you know, dressed in a suit, you know, head to toe with goggles on to change the light bulb, and it was so offensive. Because, you know, we may not have known everything about transmission at that time, but we did know that HIV was not transmitted by putting in a light bulb, okay? So we definitely knew. But we've definitely come a long way, but there's a whole lot similarities with this COVID-19 pandemic as there were with the HIV crisis. But it was thanks to our LGBT community that we made all of these, you know, pioneering, you know, efforts and came through with all these breakthroughs that we did. And now we have vaccines, you know, potentially coming up within a year. Well, we don't have an HIV vaccine yet in over 30 years of research. So that would be remarkable to have that kind of technology to be able to come up with that. But we're still searching for the HIV vaccine. Unlike our president said, we do not have.
Yeah. That's I'll tell you, we in the theater community are trying to do everything we can to support people like you and to get the information out there. Events like tonight, where people come because they just want to see some great theater, but they're going to find out things through this journey that we're taking tonight that they might not find out otherwise. I mean, you remember back in the day with shows like The Normal Heart and As Is happening at that time, and things now like The Inheritance, which a little bit is going to be a little bit later. Yeah. We're trying to do everything we can to support you. So thank you so much, my friend, for coming in. It's been a joy to have you here.
Kevin, let me just thank you too and MTC for doing this, okay? And thank you for sponsoring my favorite organization, the New Haven Pride Center. Keep up the good work. The production's been phenomenal. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Gary. We'll catch up soon.
Take care.
Okay.
Okay, so we are now headed into our last segment of the evening, and that is the year 2000 through now, which is going to focus on the civil rights of the LGBT community which includes marriage equality. In this segment, we're going to see a number of pieces which are so exciting, and we're going to also contribute to one other LGBT hero, which will be coming up. You're going to see a period of time in theater when everything took one step up. We had our first sort of like docudrama play called The Laramie Project. And the Laramie Project was founded by the Potomac Theater Company. They took their entire theater company up to Laramie, Wyoming to investigate
a horrible hate crime with
Matthew Shepard's murder. And the Laramie Project was put together with interviews of people who lived in Laramie, how they felt, what their lives were like there. You're going to see some cuttings from that right off the bat here. We're also going to give a little tribute here to Terrence McNally, another hero of the LGBT community, with one of his last pieces called Mothers and Sons, which features our special guest star tonight, Joanna Gleason, and Jersey Boys Nick Denard as well. Also, some other great things, and closing that segment will be the Inheritance, the big Broadway hit earlier this season that talks about the importance of the history of the LGBT community and why it's important for young gay men and women to understand the history and to learn from it. So without any further ado, we're going to kick off with the Laramie Project. Enjoy this.
The Mormon Church has a little different thing going that irritates some folks. And that is that we absolutely believe that God speaks to man. We don't think that it happened and some folks wrote it in the Bible. God speaks to us today, and we believe that. We believe that the prophet of the church has the authority to receive inspiration and revelation from God. God has set boundaries. And one of our responsibilities is to learn. What is it that God wants? So you study scripture, you look to your leaders, then you know what the bounds are. Now, once you kind of know what the bounds are, then you sort of get a feel for what's out of bounds. There's a proclamation that came out on family. A family is defined as one woman, one man, and children. That's a family. That's about as clear as you can state it. There's no sexual deviation in the Mormon Church. No leniency. We just think it's out of bounds.
My understanding when I first came here is that I was the first out lesbian or gay faculty member on campus. And that was 1992, so that wasn't very long ago. At my interview, they asked what my husband did. So I just came out then. Want to hear a funny story? So when you first get here as a new faculty member, there's all these things you have to do, right? So I was in my office and I noticed that a woman had called me. And I expected it's probably about health insurance or something like that. So I called her back. And I could hear her working on the keyboard, clicking away. And so I said, "Hi, this is Kathy Connolly, returning your call." And she said, "Oh, it's you." And I thought, well, this is bizarre. And she said, I hear you're gay. I hear that you are. So I was like, uh-huh. I hear you came as a couple. I'm one too. Not a couple, just a person. So she was one of those lesbians that she knew I was coming and she had to meet me immediately. She had to come over and meet me immediately. She told me later on that she knew of other lesbians that would not be seen with me, that it would irreparably taint them, that just to be seen with me could be a problem.
Well, I took off on my bicycle at about 5 p.m. on a Wednesday from my dorm. I went to the top of Cactus Canyon, and I'm not super familiar with that area. So on my way back down, I didn't know where I was going. I was just sort of picking the way to go, which now it just makes me think that God wanted me to find him, because there's no way that I was going to go that way. So I was in some deep ass sand, and I wanted to turn around, but for whatever reason I kept going. And you know, there was this rock on the ground, and I just drilled it. You know, so I went over the handlebars and ended up on the ground. So I got up, and I was dusting myself off, and I was looking around, and I noticed something, which ended up to be Matt. And he was just lying there by a fence. And I just thought it was a scarecrow. You know, I was like, Halloween's coming up. I thought it was a Halloween gag. So I didn't think much of it. I got on my bike, and I got closer to him, and I noticed his hair. You know, that was a major key for me, noticing that it was a human being. It was his hair. Because I just thought it was a dummy. You know, I even noticed the chest going up and down. I still thought it was a dummy. You know, I just thought it was some kind of mechanism. There was nothing I could do. I mean, if there was anything that I could have done to help him, I would have done it, but there was nothing. And I was yelling at the top of my lungs at him, trying to get something out of him, but he didn't even move. He didn't flinch. He didn't anything.
Make this part look rugged, Allegheny Plateau. This dark shaded stripe, bum, 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 is the front. Paint the long ridges and valleys below. Our town is this dot. Quick dashes mark property ends, Beach Creek, a rope that turns and bends, little squares for houses strung along roads. The land transfigured into topographic codes. Maps show you what is simple and true. Try laying out a bird's eye view. Not what he told you, just what you see. What do you know that's not your dad's mythology? Dad Dad was born on this farm. Here's our house. Here's the spot where he died. I can draw a circle. His whole life fits inside. 4 miles from our door, I-80 ran from shore to shore on its way from the Castro to Christopher Street. The road not taken, just 4 miles from our door. You were born on this farm. Here's our house. Here's the spot where you died. I can draw a circle. I can draw a circle. You lived your life inside.
Tonight, we honor 2 playwrights who recently left us, both of whom had an enormous impact on the LGBT movement, Terrence McNally and Larry Kramer. Our tribute to Larry is coming up later, but first, Terrence McNally, whom we lost on March 20 of this year. Spanning 6 decades, his writing reflected the current social climate, many times holding a mirror up to the LGBT world, our lives, our passions, our struggles, and our rights. He was a literary giant, winning countless awards, including a Pulitzer Prize, 4 Tony Awards, 2 Obie Awards, and 3 Lucille Lortel Awards. His enormous volume of more than 30 plays includes Love, Valor, Compassion, Some Men, Andre's Mother, The Ritz, Frankie and Johnny at the Claire de Lune, and Masterclass, as well as the books of the musicals Ragtime, Kiss of the Spider-Woman, Catch Me If You Can, and The Full Monty. Here are Broadway veterans Eric Scott Kincaid as the eccentric designer Valentine in Dressing Them Up from Kiss of the Spider-Woman, and Jersey Boys Nicholas Dramard with special guest Joanna Gleason in a poignant scene from one of Terrence's last works, Mothers and Sons. Enjoy.
I am a window dresser at Montoya's. Their main store, thank you very much. And I'm good at it too. Do you want to know why? It's because I cannot rest until each mannequin is perfect. Dressing them up, I love the dressing them up. The subtle tilt of a hat, touches like that, make me the best of the lot at dressing them up. I was the cream of the crop. The way I buckled the belt, folded the felt, helped me to get where I got. Before I got where I got, I was the absolute top. For example, once I asked for a Balenciaga scarf to stuff in the mannequin's purse. They told me no one on earth would see. I answered, no one on earth but me. I stood my ground as no other dresser does. And darling, guess what? Balenciaga it was. Dressing them up, I was the creme de la creme. As I adjusted each hem, I kept on dazzling them at my particular store, which was the best in the town. You'll never catch them wearing a frown or catch them dressing me down with my finesse at dressing them up. Raise that skirt just an inch or two, add some rouge, just a pinch or two, start the fan. No much gustier, stuff that gauze, make a bustier. Oh, that frock, too much red in it, I would not be caught dead in it. Well, they all start like hell, but I make them sell by dressing them up. From earrings down to their boots, in evening dresses or suits, unlike some second-rate prudes in other second-rate stores that can't compare to my own. You'll never catch them wearing a frown or catch them dressing me down with my finesse. dressing them up. I had the touch. Thank you very much.
You should have held me that day in the park. I'd lost Andre too. Instead, you made me feel ashamed and unwanted, just as you made Andre feel. We weren't strong then against people like you. You held all the cards. He wanted your love all his life, so much he had to pretend he didn't. So did I that day. God forgive me. I wanted you to love me for loving Andre. I wanted to forgive you. I don't anymore. I don't care. If you hadn't done this, I wonder if I would have thought of you ever again. No offense, but I don't think news of your passing will make the New York Times, Mrs. Gerard. And then there truly will be none. It is sad when you think about it. But this thing isn't over. This thing that brought us all together can still tear us apart. Young men are still falling in love, but some of them are still being infected, and some of them are still dying. If anything like this happened to Bud, or Will, I'm sure there's that possibility too. I would be devastated, but I wouldn't reject either one of them. I'm Will's husband, not his judge. I'm Bud's father, not his scourge. If that were my son, wasting, writhing, incoherent, incontinent in that bed in St. Vincent, I would want him to know how much I loved him, how much I would always love him. I did what I could for Andre. I hope to this day it was enough. Being a parent has made me quite defenseless. It's a good thing I don't want anything from you anymore. I'll get your coat.
I couldn't hold you when I should have had my son to hold. I still can't.
Jesus Christ, woman, reach someone, let someone in.
There's so much I want to say that is not about Andre. It's about me and no one else. Me, as if I were the only other person on the planet, which is what I have felt all my life. There were other people, a mother, a father, a husband, it didn't matter. I was still alone. And then there was Andre. And I thought everything would be fine. He was going to fix it. He didn't even come close. Maybe when he fell down and I soothed him until he stopped crying, I felt a connection. Maybe when he was in pain, I was his mother when he needed me. Like what's going on in there? Don't mistake that for love. It means comfort. It means concern. It doesn't mean love. I watched Andre give our dog more of himself than he gave me.
Oh, we've all felt like that. It's human nature being ridiculous.
The dachshund. It was the dachshund. He was turning gray, and Andre tried to dye him with some of my hair coloring. It didn't work.
That sounds like Andre.
I'm the only one who thought that Andre was a difficult child. He was smarter than anyone else. He had secrets. I was afraid of him. He could be so remote. I didn't know where he'd go in his head. I just wanted him to take me with him, away from Dallas and a husband I didn't love. He never even tried to love. He was just unlovable. Some people are, you know. I've turned into one. But I would have married anyone who took me out of Portchester, even if it was only across the railroad tracks to Rye. But Mr. Gerard wanted to go west, young man, which is ridiculous because, well, he wasn't a young man and Dallas isn't the West, it's Dallas. I am a Yankee. I remain one. I need 4 seasons. I need to be around smart people who know what time it is. I don't suffer fools. I was a smart woman. I thought I was going to die with that secret. My father worked in the post office. My mother spent the day ironing and baking and cleaning, and we ate on a table covered with an oilcloth. And with my Portchester High diploma, I went to work for a dentist, Dr. Minnerly, Dr. Payne, his patients called him. He didn't believe in Novocaine. I hated him, and I hated my job. Look, you can tell your husband I know how much I use that word. He didn't score any points there. And every week I saved my money until I had enough to buy myself an evening dress that I could wear to get me into the Rye Country Club spring dance where I knew I would meet my savior. And I did. And I got him to marry me like that. And I didn't get knocked up to get him to do it like most of my girlfriends. I turned on the charm. You know, I can when I want to. I've given you a glimpse of it. And I had good legs. I've always had good legs. I still do. Andre got his legs from me. He had beautiful legs for a man.
Yes, he did.
And I thought, I could be happy for a little bit. I don't know what I mean by happy anymore. I thought I did then. Content, not jealous, it's able to stop jiggling. I'm a nervous woman. I still can't cross my legs without jiggling them. As Andre once said, Mom, you look like a woman in heat when you pump your legs like that. He could be very fresh. I wanted to slap him. And then out of the blue, just like that, he decides he wants to be an actor. Drama club, acting lessons, singing, dancing, and I was his chauffeur for all of this. I read a lot of good books in that car waiting for Andre, our gray dachshund, happily drooling away on the car seat beside me. I got thanks, I got presents, I got, I love you, but I didn't get him. I got everything else but him. He was supposed to let me love him the way I'd never been loved. And I was going to make him happy the way I'd never been. And then he was off to New York City, and suddenly he has a life, and it had nothing to do with me. All I was Andre's mother, the woman who bore him. He wrote something when he wasn't much older than your boy. Just, God bless the Lord. God bless my mommy. She has good things in her oven.
That's lovely.
I was Andre's mother to him as much as I was to any of his little friends. Can I have a cookie, Andre's mother? Well, you can if you call me Mrs. Gerard, but they never did. I wasn't a person to them. I was Andre's mother. I got pregnant when Andre was 4. I aborted it. I never told anyone. I was waiting for the right time to tell Andre. It was going to be our final secret together.
Andre loved you.
We all say we love someone. Words are the bridge we build across the void that separates us. Just desperate to cling to something. I love you is the best we've come up with for pretending it isn't there.
I don't agree with you.
I'm almost done. Before I knew it, he was in New York, and then there was a friend who became a roommate who became a lover.
That would be me, Catherine.
You took him from me forever.
All you had to do was open your heart to him.
I couldn't. I still can't. I don't know why. I don't care why anymore. It sickens me after all these years. It still sickens me.
Is it the sex? 2 men physically intimate, fucking, sucking, making love. All those things are people do and are never going to stop.
It's everything. What kind of life is that child going to have?
A better one than Andre's. A better one than yours.
There's only one thing I ever did to Andre that I'm ashamed of. If he were here, I would fall to my knees and tell him how sorry I am. He'd just gone to New York. I called him. It was late. It was very late. I woke him up. What's wrong, Mom? Are you okay? I was laughing. I was crying. I'd been drinking. I said, honey, your mother just let a man pick her up at the Adolphus Hotel, and he drove me in his car to the very edge of Dallas where it was still woody and dark. And he started making love to me. I couldn't do it, and I asked him to take me back to town. He could have been very nasty about it, but he wasn't. I think he was married too. So what do you think of your old lady now, kiddo? Somebody still wants to fuck her. He didn't say anything, and after a while, one of us hung up. We never spoke of it. I won't ask you if he told you that story. And then when his father was in the hospital after the first surgery for lung cancer, I mean, I said there was only one thing, Mr. Porter. I lied. There were 2 things that can never be taken back. I found Andre in the visitor's lounge. He was crying. I said, I know why you're crying. You're not crying for your father. You're crying because of what you are.
I know, Mrs. Gerard. He called me right after from a payphone there. He was pretty devastated.
Can you imagine a mother saying something like that to her son? Her only child.
I'll get your coat.
Please.
In last season's multi-award-winning play, The Inheritance, Eric and Toby are 30-somethings who seem to be very much in love and thriving in contemporary Manhattan. But on the cusp of their engagement, they meet an older man haunted by the past, and a younger man hungry for a future. Chance meetings lead to surprising choices as the lives of 3 generations interlink and collide with explosive results. Matthew Lopez's brilliant re-envisioning of E.M. Forster's masterpiece Howard's End to 21st century New York, The Inheritance asks how much we owe those who lived and loved before us, questions the role we must play for future generations, and dares us to fearlessly hold on to the wild ride called life. Here is Broadway veteran Sean Hayden with a moment from the show, the theme of which actually serves as the inspiration for tonight's entire event.
We need our community. We need our history. How else can we teach the next generation about who they are, how they got here? Human culture from time immemorial has been transmitted through stories, right? Just think about the ancient epics, the Odyssey, the Mahabharata. Oral histories that allowed cultures to understand themselves. In order to become an honorable Greek, one had to study the actions of Odysseus. A young Hindu would reflect on the conversations between Arjuna and Krishna on the battlefield. African Americans teach their children about slavery and Jim Crow and the civil rights movement so they will understand Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, and Trayvon Martin. Just as my family taught me about the Holocaust. And through this intergenerational conversation, passed along, in some cases for millennia, history is conveyed and culture survived. Greeks thump their chest and reflect on the invasion of Troy. Black children stand just a little taller at the mention of Rosa Parks. And we, in our own culture, we feel the stirring of pride when we reflect on the meaning of Stonewall, Edie Windsor, Bayard Rustin, Harvey Milk, and the bravery of the men and women who stood on the front lines of the epidemic. And to let that go means we've relinquished a part of ourselves. If we can't have a conversation with our past, then what will be our future? Who are we? And most important, what will we become?
That is such an amazing piece. And as I said in the opening, it really encapsulates why we are all here tonight. I'm going to bring on our last 2 guests right now. First, I'm going to bring on my dear friend, Jonathan Lovitz. He is a nationally recognized LGBT public policy advocate and business consultant. He is the National Senior Vice President of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce and a regular commentator on MSNBC, CNBC, NPR, The Advocate, and on Bloomberg. The most important thing about Jonathan is that he is the next generation leading the movement from here on. And we're going to hear a little bit about that right now. So Jonathan, come on in.
Well, it's a joy to see you. I am speechless, not least because I just I'm following Joanna Gleason in The Inheritance. What's the gay to do? This is a lot to process.
It is a lot.
Congratulations on this incredible night and this commitment to pride, to the theater community, obviously to great LGBT centers like we're supporting tonight. This is just such a special evening. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking time out. You're such a busy guy all the time, and we really appreciate you coming to see us tonight and spending a little time with us. So to follow up on the inheritance thing, particularly with young LGBT people of your generation and even younger, why do you think it's important that they understand the history and sort of what has gotten us to this point?
We are who we are today because of the shoulders upon who we stand. But I don't know if you're feeling the same way I am, but I feel like I have received a lifetime's worth of overdue education about the struggles of Black Americans, the struggles of queer Black Americans, the struggles of queer people in general, just in the last few weeks that we've been watching this amazing intersection between our communities as we are all fighting once again just to be recognized as equal citizens. It really is incredible. And I was so touched to see a scene from Laramie Project just a few minutes ago, thinking about how, my life, which began working in the theater, is now, has given me the skills, the confidence, the ability to be in places where Dennis and Judy Shepard, Matt's parents, are dear friends of mine and people I speak to regularly about how we keep moving the community forward. So I would not be who I am without my life in the theater. And I am so grateful for it. And I'm so grateful that we're telling stories like The Inheritance, that we've got people who are going to continue to carry on Terrence McNally's legacy with great storytelling, and that theaters like yours are going to keep making safe spaces for us to tell new versions of old tales about ourselves as we become more comfortable in understanding that our voices matter. I end every speech and lecture I get to give when I work all over the country with that quote by Margaret Mead: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world because it's the only thing that ever has." And whether you're a small group in a theater somewhere or a major national organization or somewhere in between, your voice matters. Use it for good.
Well, you are really so on the cutting edge and really down in the trenches dealing with our public policies and our human rights and our civil rights. And, I can't imagine that people think that, the struggle for marriage equality is over, because I think we all know that, you think that you've gotten there and you've achieved something, but a friend of mine said it's always 2 steps forward and 1 step back all the time. And we keep fighting the same battles. And the last several weeks have certainly taught us that. So what do you say to young people who want to get involved in this movement?
Exactly right what you just said. We are fortunate to be winning battles, but that doesn't mean we can ever get complacent. Equality is given to us on paper. It's won through laws being passed, but it's equity that changes everything. It's when there's enough of us in every boardroom, when there's enough of us, and especially those who don't look like you and me, running organizations and being elected to office and being, the heads of positions of power. And we always talk about the seat at the table that we work so hard to gain as a community. It's our obligation, particularly people in positions of privilege, to scoot over and make room in your seat to share with somebody else who's not invited. So I challenge all the young people out there, the young artists, the allies in working in corporations and everyone in between, find your way to be an advocate for someone who doesn't have a voice. If a life in the theater taught me anything, it's that I have a voice that I should use because someone doesn't, or has been told that theirs is irrelevant or too small to make a difference. And yet, think about Twitter. A tweet from the president and a tweet from you and a tweet from me all show up in the same timeline. How are we using the fact that we've got any set of eyeballs reading what we write or listening to what we say? We can each be unbelievable advocates for the things that we care most about. And you know, so it's, someone mentioned Edie Windsor in that last scene. Today's Edie Windsor's birthday. I wish she was still with us to see how we have carried forth what she and so many others like Gemma Bergefell and countless others have laid out for us as a path to follow. That it began with marriage equality. It didn't end there. We've got so much more work to do.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You're such an inspiration. It's so great. And the thing, of course, that I love as well is that you have taken all the theater training and the professional experience that you've had and parlayed that into being a spokesman, you know, and an advocate for a cause that clearly is such a big part of your heart. You know, we have a conservatory here as well. So what would you tell parents and kids who are studying theater and may not end up, you know, actually in the professional world, but how did theater impact your life and your training to be able to do what you're doing now?
I'm the man, I'm the human being I am today because I started off like so many of us, surrounded by that group of misfits when we were young, figuring out, you know, forget who we loved and what we cared about, just people who wanted to express themselves in some way that was bigger than themselves. And the theater was that outlet. The arts in so many ways was that outlet for so many of us. And to those students who may go into a life in the arts or may just be studying it to make them better humans. You know, I think about, you just had Joanna Gleason on. I'm thinking about, you know, her beyond all of her incredible Tony-winning performances, she was on The West Wing, a show that is full of activists, a lot of people who I've gotten to know personally over the years who are incredible performers, but also diehard advocates for their causes. And, you know, there was a great scene in there where they talk about, you know, the age of Lorenzo Medici was also the age of Leonardo da Vinci. The age of Elizabeth was the age of Shakespeare. Great societies happen when we have great arts and artists in them. And even if you're not standing on a stage entertaining hundreds or thousands, knowing what the arts teach you about getting in touch with yourself, reading a room, convincing people to be moved by what you have to tell them is true whether or not you're trying to get you're trying to win a scene on stage or you're trying to get a president elected. So, you know, it all goes back to believing what's in your heart and finding those avenues to get it out. And I was so lucky that those years in the theater taught me that. And especially as a young artist, when I was on my first couple of Broadway national tours, seeing gay life all over the country and realizing the privileges that I didn't even know I had. And why it was such became and is such an important part of my life to give back to the community and especially to make it easier for young people to be who they are earlier than ever.
Well, you are such an inspiration, my young friend. You are such an inspiration. And if you're any indication, we are in such great hands moving forward. So keep doing what you're doing. Come around and visit us, you know, every so often. It's great to have you here. And say hi to that wonderful Philadelphia weatherman husband of yours for us.
I sure will. And Kevin, thank you for all you're doing. You are a hero. You are representative of so many great artistic directors and leaders in the arts community out there using this moment to make a difference. And I'm proud to know you, proud to support MTC, and you've got a friend for life in me.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thanks so much for coming in. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And we're going to bring on our final guest right now. And we feel that there's no better way to end this broadcast tonight than to bring on somebody from a show that really took Broadway by storm in the last couple of years and exemplifies everything that this show and our position in theater is about. And I'm going to let him tell you about it. Fernell Hogan, come on, from the Broadway original cast of The Prom. Hey!
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for putting together such a educational and inspirational show. I've learned a lot just from being here backstage watching, and I've truly been inspired by everyone on here.
Oh, great. Great. Well, tell me about what you think the message, for those who don't know what The Prom is, just give us a little quick synopsis of it, and then tell me what you think the message of The Prom is. What do you want the audience to walk out feeling?
It's truly about a high school girl. Her name is Emma Nolan. She wants to take her girlfriend to the prom, and the school board hears about that, and their response is to cancel the prom because they have opposing views. And these New York Broadway actors hear about it and they come down to Indiana, and it ensues into this whole just kind of clash of trying to get this girl to prom. But through all of that, the through line and the message is just love is love. It's a show about unity, a show about love, a show that inspires conversation. My thing about being in the show that was so special was hearing about the conversations that it started on the car ride home, which is the point of theater to me, is to impact and to make a change. And you could truly see the change that show had on the Broadway community and everyone that saw it. And my family personally, my dad, who saw the show, after he saw the show, I called him one day. I was like, hey, what are you doing? And he was like, I'm on Josh Lehman's Twitter fighting with people. And Josh Lehman's a cast member. I said, 1, when did you get a Twitter? And 2, why are you on Twitter fighting? And I went to look. He was on Twitter fighting people who said homophobic things.
Oh my gosh.
And
see?
I was like, where did that come from? And he said, love is love. The show got me.
Oh
and
my gosh.
It changed my family. So I know it changed so many others. And I heard so many stories from the stage door that were just amazing.
Yeah. Well, as we've heard from so many people tonight, you know, everything happens one person at a time.
Yes.
And thank you guys for being such inspirations and for producing such an amazing show that really, really is changing minds and hearts, and will continue to do that once we're all out of this like crazy time that we're in right now.
Yeah, can't wait to get back out there.
I know, exactly. Well, thanks so much for coming in. We're going to hear a great song from the prom from you in just 1 second. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and then we're going to bring that on for the finale because we love it so much.
Thank you. Sounds so great.
Thanks so much, Fernell, for being a part of this. It really means a lot to us, and best of luck with everything. Stay safe and stay strong.
Thank you. Same to you.
Okay. So that is our evening. Now I'm going to sort of come back to where we started, and this is a fundraising evening. We're still about $1,500 away from reaching our goal. So if you've loved what you saw here tonight, if you have been inspired, as I have been, by these wonderful Broadway performers and our wonderful special guests that we've had, please, please, please go to the MTC website, which is going along the bottom, or dial the number on your cell phone and text GIVE, and you can do that right away. I'm going to throw our tech team a little bit of a curve right here, because before we go to the final number, I want to be sure that we acknowledge our sponsors, because this evening would not have happened without them, as I said at the beginning. So there are the sponsors for this evening. We could not be happier that they have joined with us in this cause, and with moving everything forward, not only here in our local community, but on a national level. So that's my last pitch. Please, please jump in, be a part of this, give whatever you can. And now, without any further ado, Unruly Heart by Fernell Hogan from The Prom. Have a great rest of the week, everybody, and thank you so much for coming in.
Though I don't know how or when, but somehow I learned to see, no matter what the world might say, this heart is the best part of me. So fears all in the past, fading so fast, I won't stay hidden anymore. I'm who I am, and I think that's worth fighting for. And nobody out there ever gets to define the life I'm meant to lead with this unruly heart of mine. And nobody out there ever gets to define the life I'm meant to lead with this this unruly heart of mine.